In this video, we're going to be looking at a type of poem called a list poem. And I think list poems are probably one of the easier forms to choose to write if you're new to writing and just beginning to start writing poetry. And they also work particularly well if you're into performance poetry and reading your work aloud, because the rhythm and the repetition of them helps with a live audience really taking your message in. So what makes a list poem is essentially the start of each of your sentences in your work begins the same. So it's got the same either repeated word or repeated phrase. And that's a particular kind of repetition which is known as anaphora. So to begin, I want you to write down a simple list of 10 things about yourself. Could be about your gender, about your physical appearance, about your interests, about your hobbies, or about your personality. So here's my example. So that's step one. Once you've done that, you can now introduce your repeated phrase that will turn your list into a list poem. So I want you to try having a go with the phrase I am. So put I am before each of the things on your list. So for example, I am blue eyes. I am music. I am tattooed and smart and cheerful. So when you've done that with your list, I want you to start to think about how you can make your images and your list poem really detailed. So adding adjectives, adverbs, using poetic images and similes and metaphors and alliteration to really make your lines stand out and give a true representation of who you are. So for example, I can turn the line, I am blue eyes, into I am sapphire blue eyes shining bright on pale skin. You can also use the other senses such as sound, taste, touch and smell. So for example, I am football could become I am the sound of the roaring crowd as Messi scores a phenomenal goal. I think a top tip for making really good poetry is to try and push yourself to come up with words and phrases and images that when put together no one has ever come up with before. So being really original and really specific and detailed, because they really allow your reader or your listener to picture what you're trying to say in their minds, and it makes a really interesting work. So that's it. I'd love to see the list poems that you've been working on if you've had a go at today's challenge. So please drop them in the comments.